Real quick before we get into the review, just gotta thank the people over on Patreon, because without their support, a lot of this upgraded content you see on the channel would not be possible. And I gotta say, on top of being able to respond to you guys in the DMs, you know, one of the fun things about the Patreon is every 3 months we do an anime and manga haul, and there's a lot of good goodies in that one. You also get sneak peeks at videos that haven't made their way onto the channel yet. I'm still figuring out what to do for actual YouTube memberships, so leave a suggestion down in the comment section below. But with that being said, thank you so much for all of you guys' support, and now let's get into the review. Yo, what's going on everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explained here, bringing you guys a review for Boruto episode 205. And now that episode 205 is done in the books, this is going to be a pretty quick review. Even by my standards, this is going to be a quick review. So instead of a 16-minute review, this is probably going to be in that 10 to 13-minute range, because this episode only did maybe 3/4 of a chapter, so there's not a terrible lot to actually go over. But what I will say is that the anime did make some changes that one was very much welcome, and then the other two were ones where I kind of scratched my head a little bit. So the one that was obviously welcome is seeing the interaction with Boro and Kashin Koji, and how they're continuing to play the car edition of Among Us, and they're all looking to see who the traitor is. And Boro's like, haha, I got you, I found a toad here. And you know, we just get more information on potentially what happened when the airship went down, and Kashin Koji's like, hell no, I'm not the traitor, how could it ever be me? Delta's obviously the one that's sus, bruh. You ain't gotta worry about me being the traitor. You know, Jigen showed up here, and because Jigen pulled up and he didn't do anything to me, that obviously means that I'm not the traitor. He could have just wiped me out and conveniently left out the fact that Jigen never came back to Konoha after taking the Hokage. But you know, it is what it is. That's enough for Boro to just kind of get out of the actual scenario where he's talking to Kashin Koji. So I like how you see Kashin Koji with a lot of quick wit right there, and I like how the anime is still trying to play the whole thing up of who's the traitor. At this point, it's either Kashin Koji or it's gonna be Amato. Which one's the traitor? So I like how the anime's just kind of, you know, steady, kind of pushing that along. I thought the extra car scenes were very welcome. Actually seeing Code there, and Code's like, oh my god, who actually did this to Jigen? And you see the infatuation that Code has and how happy Code is that the Infinite Tsukiyomi's coming. I thought that that was a very welcome addition, because they're actually developing the character of Code, because in the manga, up until recent chapters, Code in the manga was absolute dog shit. So I like that the anime's kind of doing that, and I also like that the anime's actually explaining why Delta is still in the car base. In the manga, there was no real explanation on that, and I like how Delta gets very pissed off when Jigen tells her, we no longer need your power right now, and Delta goes from being pissed off, punching the wall, it's like, oh, so the Infinite Tsukiyomi's coming, so you need me to prepare for that moment. So I like how the anime's just kind of adding extra stuff there. That's one thing I will give the anime. It's got a lot of flaws, but when it comes to actually padding out material from the manga, the anime actually does a pretty good job. Now, what I will say though is that I did not like the extra line that was thrown in there, but I understand where Jigen's talking and Jigen says like, yeah, you know, I'm gonna need 10 full days in order to recover. In the manga, it was 3 days. So the fact that they changed it from 3 to 10, that tells you one thing, that because we're going into this Isshiki Otsutsuki revival arc in July, it really feels like the start of that arc is going to be transition episodes. I feel like we're going to get some transition episodes that directly set up the events that are coming after the fact. So really and truly, the events that happen at the end of chapter 44 and during chapter 45, I think that there's going to be some transition episodes, probably 3 or 4 transition episodes where we actually get to this. That way they can justify there being an additional 7 days before the utter chaos actually goes off. So just kind of prepare yourself for that. But what I will say too is that I like how another thing this episode does is this episode has a line where Jigen is talking. He's like, yeah, Boruto and Kawaki are going to make a gigantic chakra fruit tree, and once that actually happens, you know, they're going to be perfect Otsutsuki. And there's a few details that are being left out, and left out on purpose because they're going to be revealed later on. But I do like the fact that, you know, Jigen points out that like Boruto and Kawaki both both are on their way to becoming perfect Otsutsuki. And there's an additional line that's thrown in there that if you did not catch it last week, go back and watch last week's episode. Isshiki Otsutsuki was talking through Jigen, and what you see here is that Jigen in this episode, when he's talking, is Isshiki Otsutsuki, because Isshiki says that as he's speaking through Jigen, he says that this body is only going to be temporary. In the last episode, the thing that Isshiki says is that he needs Kawaki's body, and you're seeing the reason for that, which is that Jigen's body cannot contain the chakra of Isshiki Otsutsuki. That's part of why he's saying I got carried away, and the anime adds a few extra lines, so I wanted to avoid a violent confrontation, so they're actually trying to add some more to Jigen's personality. In the manga, it really came across like Jigen was like, yeah, this is just a really bad habit of mine. You know, the way the anime handled this actually changes the way that you look at Jigen's character. Whether or not you think it's for better or for worse, I guess it's one of those things to kind of pad the blow of Naruto and Sasuke fans still being on suicide watch a full week later, but changing the character dialogue from, hey, you need 2 days to recover, to, hey, you need a full 10 days to recover from fighting Naruto and Sasuke. It's just like, come on, man, that's so much sucker shit right there. Like, whatever. Like I stated earlier in the review, this was obviously done in order to realistically add in some transition episodes, because if you do 3 or 4 transition episodes at the start of the next arc, it's not going to actually feel like all that could have realistically took place. I understand the reason for it, I just really don't care for it once you start making changes in the actual story, but that's just me though. The other thing I will say is that you're also in a situation where this episode really goes out of its way to just highlight how Kawaki has that relationship with Naruto, and you get this one line in there to where Sarada's just looking over at Kawaki and she's like, yeah, you know, I used to be so jealous of Boruto. I used to wonder what would my life be like if Naruto had been my father, and somewhere Naruto's sitting in that ramen bowl that Jigen sealed him away in, which is so dirty by the way. But Naruto's sitting there, he's like, yeah, you know, that could have been you. You could have been my child, but Sakura, hey, she wanted the guy with the shiny red eyes. Apparently my blue eyes weren't good enough, but it is what it is. And if you want to see a potential scenario to where Naruto does marry Sakura, check out the 3-part series I have on the channel, What If Naruto Married Sakura. Highly recommend checking out those videos, by the way, cheap plug. But what I will say though is that, you know, you see this moment how for a brief moment Kawaki and Sarada, they bond in that instance right there, and it just kind of shows you with the character Boruto is that Boruto's changed, but Boruto's also in a situation where he doesn't realize how good he's got. He doesn't realize how good he's actually got it, and it's only through those conversations in the perspective of people that aren't Boruto that you truly get the opportunity to actually see it. It's actually a little bit of good writing, because what you're actually able to do in this moment is you're able to convey so much about a character without actually seeing that character interact, and it's because you're seeing the character through the scope and the perspective of a supporting character. So I thought that that was a nice touch of writing there by Ukyo Kodachi, who was writing the manga during this part of the story. So I thought that that was a nice touch there. And the other thing I'll definitely say is that I was a little disappointed because when Shikamaru and Boruto kind of going back and forth, you know, there's a line in the actual manga. This is more of me being more of a manga purist, so kind of keep that in mind, but there was a line that was in the manga that was not in the anime adaptation, which is Shikamaru, when him and Boruto going back and forth on what to do with the character Kawaki. In the manga, Shikamaru says like, oh my god, you are acting so much like your father was when your father was your age. You're such a brat right now. And I thought it was very important to actually see that side of Boruto in the manga, and I feel like with what the anime was doing with having Kawaki have those moments where he looks at Boruto and he gets reminded of Naruto, I really feel like that was needed, because you're seeing in this instance, you would be seeing both sides of Naruto. You'd be seeing the immature, bratty, naive side of Naruto, but then you would also see the very kind-hearted, hopeful side of Naruto, and you would see it through two separate characters. However, I get why they actually cut that. The anime's kind of gone out of its way to not make Boruto feel like a Naruto clone slash ripoff. So I understand why they cut it. I just don't like when you deviate too much from the actual manga. So that kind of ruffled my feathers a little bit. But what I'll also say too is I like how the way this episode ended off is it ended in a way that it gave the next week's episode more to go off of, which is essentially Kawaki looks down at his hand and he says, like, you need proof that I'm not a traitor. You need all this proof. I'll go get the proof for you, family. So what Kawaki does is Kawaki grabs Boruto. They work in unison with the Karma Seal. Both of them work together in tandem to use a space-time ninjutsu in order to teleport themselves all the way to the next dimension where Naruto's being held at. And so I like that you see that little bit right there. And I thought it was a smart choice to have the episode end off here where Shikamaru's looking over at Kawaki and Kawaki saying, you want your proof? I'll go get your proof. And I thought it was nice to leave it there because of what's going to happen next week. In the next episode preview, you actually see Team 7 going up against Boro. Boro's playing around with the characters, and you see the major change that happened that I did a video predicting, which is they're gonna do a small retcon to Sarada Uchiha. Sarada's gonna have the 2 Tomoe Sharingan in this fight and not the 3 Tomoe like in the manga, which means that there's either a chance that they completely rewrite that scene or there's a chance that they have her awaken the 3 Tomoe midway through the fight during a critical element. Overall, this was okay. This was an okay episode. Like I said, after last week's episode, anything is gonna feel like it's a severe drop off in quality. So my episode question to you guys is, do you guys agree with Shikamaru that Shikamaru was right to suspect Kawaki in this instance, that ever since he showed up, all this stuff with cars started happening? Do you think he made the right call to keep Kawaki confined, or do you think that he should have given the character a little bit more leeway? Was Boruto right that Kawaki had done more than enough? And then the second question I have for you guys is a 2-part question. So do you think that Boruto does not realize how good he actually has it based on the conversation with Sarada and Kawaki? And then the second part of the question I have for you guys is, how do you feel about these changes that the anime's made with Jigen now taking 10 days to actually recover from the battle with Naruto and Sasuke? Let me know how you feel down in the comment section below. But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Have an awesome day, guys.